Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome. I'm Stephen Haines, and I'm going to be talking today about mindful innovation. So a little bit about me. I'm the founder of a firm called Sequent Learning Networks. We are a professional services firm. We focus on product management, business management, and corporate strategy. I'm also the author of several books. Some of you may know me, all right? One book is called The Product Manager's Survival Guide. Then a quick read for people who just get the job as a product manager and say, oh my goodness, what am I gonna do about it now? So it gets you up to speed really quickly. There's a book written for the bosses called Managing Product Management so they can get their acts together. And the pièce de résistance, the product manager's desk reference, all 3.5 pounds, 850 pages worth of product management Bible. Recently somebody said, how long did it take you to write that? And I said, oh, about 30 years. Anyway, I'm gonna switch to my slides for a second just to give you a little bit of an overview. You can see this. So again, a little bit about our company. We do what we do through diagnostics, training or learning and development programs, advisory programs, and other resources. As you can see, there's a picture of our president, Bob Caporelli, and Bob just released his first book called Creative Strategy Generation, one of the most remarkable books on strategy that you will ever actually come across, and I will explain why in a couple of minutes. So let's talk a little bit about mindful innovation. So I did a Google search just the other day, and I came up with, I put in the term innovation, and I came up with something like 406 million results returned, which I think is a lot, all right? Which means that there's a lot of stuff going on. And I've done a couple of, did a little bit of research, and I found that if we look at some definitions, we have some definitions from our friends at the Product Development and Management Association from one of their books. And it says, well, an innovation is the act of creating a product or a process which may include invention as well as the work required to bring a unique idea into its final form. Yes. Or an innovation, a strikingly different product, service, process, or method. I think that if we know those definitions, maybe they will get us into a mood of being innovative. I don't know. But as far as I'm concerned, what most companies want, or the leaders in most companies want, is they want to go from my grandmother's desk set to a smartphone. In fact, they call those the game changers or radical innovations. But you know, most of us work in a world where we do things in steps. So we go from my grandmother's phone to my mom's phone to my cordless phone to our ubiquitous smartphone. That's what generally happens inside of companies. And I get concerned sometimes. And I get concerned because whether we have definitions, all right, and the definitions say, oh my goodness, we have to be a certain way. Or we read articles and the articles tell us, here's what you have to do to be more innovative. Hey, they did it, you can too. And so when we mix some of these things and we look at the corporate demands to be intimidating, it's really, really hard. Most people don't know how hard we are working and the treadmills that we're working on. And companies are on defense almost. It's as if they're saying to their shareholders, we have to innovate. And the shareholders are saying, you'll lose your stature, you'll fade away if you don't innovate. And if you watch television where you watch Bloomberg or CNBC or you read the Business Insider or the Wall Street Journal, not a day goes by when you don't hear the words innovation and you see a CEOs talking about innovation. And so I try to think about innovation in a very, very strange way. The pictures you see on the screen are the pictures from a exercise machine I was on in the gym about a week and a half ago before I actually created this presentation. So that was the machine I'm on. If you can see, I actually burnt 327 calories. I was on the strongest resistance, so you'll know I'm a strong guy. And I took another picture of my phone. But what was really interesting is that I got this idea for the presentation. I sort of knew I had to do it. I just didn't know what I wanted to talk about. And when I started thinking about that, I started thinking about what's going on inside of my head. Now, many of you wouldn't want to be inside of my head. Sometimes I don't want to be inside of my head. But if you look at the gears, think about the times when the inside of your head looks like that and how you feel when that happens. And I then got off this machine, or maybe I was taking notes in my smartphone. I can't remember what it was, but I wrote down a couple of different words. And I wrote down words like book, because I just finished a manuscript for a book. Thought about a client thing. I thought about this grisly scene from this Stephen King book I finished. I was thinking about my kitchen cabinets and how they weren't lined up properly. Fat cat. And I had blank spaces in my head. But the point is, it's almost like all the gears are producing this stuff that could be a word cloud. And what I realized, and what other people might realize, is I was being mindful. I was being aware. And there's a woman, she's a really, really great, well, she's an artist and a professor of psychology at Harvard. And she uses this expression, mindfulness. It's the process of actively noticing new things. Well, that's pretty cool. But the idea is that you become present, you become centered, you become more sensitive to the things that are going on. And when you're that way, you get energy. And getting energy is not the same as losing energy. I don't have to tell you this. But to me, when I'm stressed out, I can't possibly be creative. It's almost like a Maslow thing. If you're hungry, you can't be self-actualizing. You have to take care of some of the basic needs first. So about, I don't know, a number of years ago, somebody got me interested in meditating. I think the woman who suggested it said that I was a little stressed out and a little hyper. And regardless of where that came from, I took meditation training. I learned transcendental meditation. And the TM people will say, well, you have to do it 20 minutes a day, and they have all these regimens, and I can't stand regimens. And sometimes I'll find that I'll meditate for maybe a few minutes during a day. Maybe I'll take a half an hour, maybe 1 or 2 times a day. It just depends on my mood and when I want to recenter myself. Because when I do, I'm more calm and focused. And I'm going to ask you now, as you're listening to me or doing your email, because you might be multitasking, I'm going to ask you just to close your eyes for a minute. And as you close your eyes, you're not paying attention to your smartphone and you're not paying attention to your email. You're just breathing. And when you're breathing and your eyes are closed and you're sitting in your chair and you drop your shoulders and you relax your stomach, you're better able to clear your minds. So you think. Because you may be thinking about dinner. You may be thinking about the sound of the air conditioner in your room. You may be thinking about picking up your car from service. You may be thinking about a presentation you have to make or a book that you just read, and you're just breathing and you're in the moment. And if you could take a clue from this alone and think about what being more mindful, being aware, what does it mean? If you practiced it a little bit, not a lot, a little bit. For me, I feel a little bit less chaotic. Maybe I'm a bit more aware of things that are going on. Perhaps I'm more adaptable or flexible in how I process things. Perhaps I'm more creative or invigorated or hopeful. All of these things are very, very positive feelings. And innovative thought can happen when you're more mindful. All right? But maybe it's not just about me. Maybe you can think of it from a point of view of being more innovative. So I want to go back again. It's hard to be innovative if somebody tells you you have to do it and you're constrained by definitions or you're too busy. All right? I find it interesting as a side story that when I was in product management, that I felt an imperative to visit customers. I was always involved in business software automation, and that if I could just go see customers doing what they were doing, perhaps something would pop into my brain. And in fact, by visiting those customers and by seeing what they were doing and looking at expressions on their face and then processing. And the interesting place where I processed usually was airplanes. When I wasn't constrained by emails and other things, my mind was just at work. As a matter of fact, I conceived of the product manager's desk reference coming back from a corporate diagnostic, and I was on an airplane because I was frustrated. And I had to get in touch with my brain, and in fact was very, very creative. But the interesting thing about creativity is you just can't make an appointment with it. It just happens. So being more mindful allows you the potential of being more creative. And therefore, creativity may beget innovation. So what kinds of things can you do? Well, I like to just take a break. Take a walk around the block. Go out and get lunch. All right? It used to be that I would suggest to my staff, don't eat lunch alone, eat with other people. Sometimes it's a good idea to have lunch by yourself, where you can watch people think differently. Don't eat lunch in your office. Go someplace else. Visit a customer. Read an article. Go shopping. I like going shopping. Not that I like going shopping because I really can't stand the act of. I like going shopping to observe people as customers doing things. It's a different perspective. What would you get if you went to a store? The other day I was in some kind of a whole food type grocery store, not the whole food store, but some kind of a natural store. And it had a really, really weird configuration where you had to go to the back of the store and wait online and order something. And then you had to go to the front of the store and pay. And then you had to go to the back of the store and wait. I was thinking, don't they see what they're doing to the customer experience? That shop owner could do something more innovative in terms of how they handled customers. I don't know about you also. Have you ever gone to a conference? Going to a conference or a professional meeting, listening to what others say, hearing about their experiences. You never know when the spark is going to fly about being engaged with somebody and listening as opposed to doing your email and working on your smartphone. And my favorite, which I may be sort of schizophrenic about because my favorite is I like to go to the gym to clear my mind. I just don't like going to the gym because I don't like exercising, but I do it because it's important. So think about some of these things and what you could do. Because what we want to try to do is get from being mindless, where we do things by rote or by habit, and being mindful by stopping being mindless. And that woman from Harvard, she brought an example to light, which was very, very interesting. She asked the question of an audience, how do you stop a car on ice? And everybody was saying you pump the brake pedal. And she said, you're wrong. Because some of the older guys were saying that's how you pump it. But all cars are equipped with anti-lock brakes these days, where steady pressure is involved. So you have to be more mindful of the situation and some of the habits that you have in order to break some of the habits that might open the door to creativity and hopefully innovation. So the question is, what could you do tomorrow that might just open that door? And some suggestions could be, well, we're running our Product Management Leadership Summit, our 10th one. And we're focusing on insight-based innovation with case stories and mini workshops and things like that, all right? With really, really cool speakers, people who have experienced some of these innovative thoughts in developing or shaping their company culture, or how they're measuring it, or how they can unlock creative confidence, or using insights from feedback in an innovation process. You can also take a look at Bob's book. I have to tell you, I don't know very much about musical composition. I've read Bob's book twice. And Bob is a musician as well as a business strategist. And what Bob has done is he's created an amazing analogy between musical composition and strategic planning. And he's suggesting, and he proves his point, that you can be more creative, hence more innovative, if you just tap into some of that creativity. And so there are tons and tons of things that you can do. And I'd like to thank you for being with me today. And I'd like to figure out how I can actually maybe do some Q&A, So I'm going to open up my Q&A window and ask you if you'd like to submit some questions to me. So all you have to do, I think, is type them in. Questions? When is the next summit? Thank you. Glad you asked. The summit is on September 16th and 17th here in New York City, one of the most fantastic facilities on the entire planet. Thanks for asking that question. Okay. Well, thanks very much, everybody, for joining me today. And I hope you'll come back again for another broadcast.